you miss me? I've been out of a comatose, but the
Hello and
depression is
welcome to
over.
Controlled Burns, the weekly hobby list podcast for me, your host, Andrew Burns, or SlowBurne from Wildfire Gaming. I guess calling the podcast weekly these days is not really accurate. It's really been more of on a bi-weekly basis over the last 2 or 3 months, and that's just been a result of lack of motivation, quite frankly. I mean, I have been busy with, I'm always fairly busy with work stuff, but I think a big part of it is I kind of had this regimented schedule that I was following with regards to how I spent my free time. And I've broken away from that schedule, quite frankly, in favor in recent days of playing a bunch of Fallout games. And as a result of that, that's going to be kind of the basis for the podcast this week, where I'm going to be ranking the Fallout companions across. I haven't actually played Fallout 1 and 2, unfortunately. And so that's on my list. I actually, because I'm so into the franchise right now, it's something that I might do sooner rather than later. But for right now, this is just going to cover Fallout 3, New Vegas, and 4. So basically all the modern 3D Fallout games. I have only dabbled in Fallout 76. I assume that there are no companions in 76, just based on how that game works. And so, yes, today I'm going to be ranking the companions. Now, I was a little bit torn on how to go about doing this. Originally, my idea was to rank them purely based on how good they are, what benefits they bring you, and things of that nature. Once I started, I realized I couldn't bring myself to do that because there are some really boring companions that have really good perks, or vice versa. And also, it really favored, I felt, um, Fallout 4 in that sense because they all give you a perk. I guess it didn't favor everybody in Fallout 4 because some of those perks are pretty worthless, but it favored some of the Fallout 4 companions more so than others. Whereas like in Fallout 3 and New Vegas, I guess New Vegas they give you perks while they're with you, and then whenever they leave, they don't. In the Fallout 3, they really give you nothing. So it kind of created a little bit of a hierarchy in that way. So I decided to go away from that and just make it a combination of factors. One of them is still the benefits they give you, their perk if they give you one, how good they are in combat, proficient they are. And that's kind of out of the box too, because obviously you can power up any companion by giving them a bunch of ammo and a really strong weapon and really great armor. I was kind of trying to do it in a how they come out of the package where you don't really have to worry about them. Kind of going based on that metric. But then I also am taking into consideration how much I like them, how strong I think their character is. There's some bias in there of obviously that's kind of the way Fallout works is there's emergent storytelling in these games, and so some of them is going to be based on my experiences that some of you may not have had with the companions at various times. So I'm kind of trying to merge all those things together to come up with what is my definitive ranking of the 32 companions across Fallout 3, New Vegas, and 4. So we've got quite a few companions to get into. So let's jump into it. Just before we do that, I just want to remind you that Control Burns is a weekly hobby list podcast where we cover things video games, music, TV and film, other aspects of pop culture. If you want to write into the podcast, you can at controlledburns with an es at gmail.com. Okay, so getting started here, I'm going to rank my bottom choice. My bottom choice for least favorite Fallout companion is Old Longfellow from Fallout 4, specifically from the um, Far Harbor DLC. And I have rather than really write out my notes on each companion, I've got pulled up here just all the different companion lists from 3, New Vegas, and 4. Now, Long Harbor isn't, or I'm sorry, Old Longfellow isn't completely worthless as a follower. He comes with a lever action rifle, which is actually a pretty powerful rifle in Fallout 4. And then he does give you, of course, a perk like all Fallout 4 companions do, and his perk is Hunter's Wisdom, which gives you damage resistance and energy resistance. Oh, I'm sorry. It actually reduces the damage resistance and energy resistance of animals and sea creatures by 25%. That's not terrible because there are some pretty tanky enemies in Far Harbor that are, they really just are kind of bullet sponges, and so Longfellow helps with that. So it's not a bad perk to have, especially whenever you're going through that DLC. Um, my problem with Longfellow is he's just a really dull character. They really didn't give him much to in terms of a personality. I think he's just kind of supposed to be this kind of old crotchety guy that lives by himself in Far Harbor, and that's basically what he is. But they didn't. They could have taken that some pretty interesting directions, like maybe with what they did with Raul and Fallout New Vegas, but they just didn't really do that. And um, I think what really works against him more than anything else is Far Harbor is really meant to be um, played with Nick Valentine because there's he has a ton of interaction with this major character called Dima in the expansion, and so the majority of the time that you play Far Harbor, especially the first time, you really want to be with Nick Valentine. Now, I guess you could, if you know it well, you could only bring Nick Valentine and just like store him at one of your outposts at Far Harbor, maybe at Old Longfellow Shack. I've definitely done that before. And then take Longfellow out with you whenever you're not doing like main story stuff with Dima, and then go back and switch out Nick Valentine for those moments. You could do that, but yeah, it's I found myself just not doing it, quite frankly, and so I haven't spent a ton of time with Longfellow, but I am pretty positive that at least once I have maxed him out and gotten his perks. So yeah, he's just really a companion that doesn't really stick with me. Number 31 is a companion to spend a lot more time with. This is also from Fallout 4. This is the companion Strong, which is the super mutant companion in Fallout 4. You get him from completing the Curtain Call quest in downtown Boston. He is a super mutant. It's three in New Vegas also had super mutant companions, but they had interesting twists on them. Fallout 3, the super mutant was actually like extremely intelligent and actually a very peaceful guy that you kind of save from this fault. And then you have Lily in Fallout New Vegas, which is obviously a really powerful super mutant, but whenever she was turned into a super mutant, she was like a 75-year-old grandmother, and so she still thinks and talks like a grandmother, and calls her grandchildren and all that. So they both had kind of unique aspects to him. Strong doesn't have a whole lot going on. He's basically just a dumb super mutant, and so he doesn't have a whole lot going on in terms of his personality. I guess like the best thing that you can say is that he has this guy Rex Goodman, his character in the game, had been like reading the super mutants Macbeth, and so he was trying to find the milk of human kindness, which is if you've read or seen Macbeth, you kind of know what that's talking about, but. Um, that doesn't really pay off in any way. There's he just kind of is interested in finding this milk of human kindness, but he obviously doesn't understand what that means, and he thinks like you have to like kill humans for it and or whatever, just typical super mutant stuff. Um, he's a strong companion, obviously, because he is a super mutant, but really he comes out of the box pretty weak. Like he has a short pipe rifle, which is pretty worthless. Now, obviously, if you give him a powerful melee weapon, he's going to go to town with that thing, and then you can give him a powerful range weapon as well if you want. Um, and he does have a lot of health and things of that nature because he is a super mutant. But yeah, he's not super interesting in terms of depth. And then also his perk that he gives you is really bad, which gives you 20% melee damage, which would be really great if they just gave you 20% melee damage in general. But it only works if your health is below 25% or less. So basically a situation that you want to be avoiding at all times. So 99% of the time that you're playing the game, it's that perk isn't even going to be working for you. And that's a common refrain with some of the perks with the Fallout 4 companions, which is pretty disappointing. So for all those reasons, I put Strong at number 31. I have spent a lot of time with Strong. I do have some good memories with him. It is really hard to max out his affinity because he just kind of hates everything, and so that is also a challenge for Strong. But if you have like kind of a darker companion, he can be fun to spend time with, and he does have little interjections that can be humorous at times. So I definitely like him more than Old Longfellow, but I couldn't really justify putting him any higher on this list. Number 30, we have our first Fallout 3 companion. This is Star Paladin Cross from Fallout 3. And Star Paladin Cross, this is a follower that I've gotten many times. Because if you know how Fallout 3 works, your companion options are very limited depending on your karma, and with Star Paladin Cross, she's one of the two that you can get if you have good karma, and the other one is Fox, and you can't get him until the end of the game. You can get every companion or every player could get Charon, who which is a character that will go with you regardless of their affinity, their karma, and of course Dogby. But yeah, Star Paladin Cross, she's basically your only other option if you're going to be a good character and you're not willing to shell out for Charon or kill a person for it. And so as a result of that, I've spent a decent amount of time with Star Paladin Cross, and I gotta say, she is just the most boring, forgettable, nothing going on character that I can think of in terms of Fallout companions. She's just got no personality to her whatsoever. She's extremely boring. I guess like they're kind of resting on the idea that she traveled with your father in the past, and that's, something, I guess, but it's just that's not enough of a hook for you to be interested in her. And so yeah, and I think this is I love Fallout 3. Fallout 3 is my favorite Fallout game, but I will say in terms of the companions, they often come up fairly lacking, and Star Paladin Cross is probably the best example of that. She doesn't give you any kind of perk, which is common for Fallout 3 characters. And you would think that she'd be really powerful because she does wear power armor out of the gate, and she has like pretty sure she comes out of the gate with a super sledge, which is obviously a very powerful melee weapon. Then her ranged weapon is laser pistol, which is pretty bad. But yeah, that super sledge, you'd think that she could pack a punch with that thing. But I gotta say, Starbound and Cross, and this is a case with a lot of the Fallout 3 companions, she just is squishy. And because your companions can die in Fallout 3, I feel like more playthroughs than not where she has died, and sometimes right after I get her. Because you're kind of in the mid game by the time you get to Star Paladin Cross typically, and so you're going into some more dangerous areas. And if she gets hit by even a couple Yao Guai get on her, I mean she's done. And so you know I just haven't. I really just don't have anything good to say about Star Paladin Cross. I have her above Old Longfellow because I think he's pretty much equally boring. And Star Paladin Cross, I mean, at least it has some utility to her, considering that she's one of limited options if you have good karma in Fallout 3. Strong, it's like, yeah, I mean, I think there's a solid case to be made to put Strong above her, but Strong is also pretty boring, and it's another situation where you have so many better options than using Strong. So I think Starbound and Cross at 30 is where I'm gonna end up with her. Number 29, we're going back to Fallout 4. This is Kate. This might be my first kind of a controversial placement because I can see how people might like Kate. She definitely probably appeals to some types of players than others. But for me, she's never done a whole lot for me. Part of it is because I got overexposed to Kate early on in my playthroughs of Fallout 4, just because she's easy to get. She has a quest that is easily completed, and you get. It's something about my completion is mine. I guess it's like you want to do as many quests as possible, and Fallout 4 kind of makes that tough to do because you have to get to a certain affinity with all of the companions to be able to do their individual quests. Not all of them have those quests, but some of them do, and one of them is Kate, and that kind of incentivized me to use her more than I really wanted to. Eventually, I kind of just let that go and was like, you know what, I'm just going to use Kate if she makes sense for the character that I'm kind of trying to play as. And unfortunately, that's rarely the case, and that is again going to come back down to how bad her perk is, which is Trigger Rush. It gives you 25% faster AP regeneration. Again, pretty good if it was by itself, but unfortunately, it only works if your HP is below 25%. So again, it's almost never going to work, and especially if you're dying, your health is that low, you're not going to be relying on your AP to recharge, unless you're trying to run away. You're probably trying to get the hell out of there and heal up before you get back into the fray. So in a way, it's even worse than Strong's. Like in Strong's, at least maybe you could go into a flurry of hitting with your melee weapons. But I have Kate above him because Kate does have a quest that you might find interesting if you haven't done it a bunch. And she definitely has way more of a personality. She's much more of a fleshed out character than Strong. I find her a little bit annoying. I find her accent a little grating, quite frankly. And she becomes a better character, I guess, if you spend more time with her and she kind of lets down her guard a little bit around you, or if you romance her or whatever. But yeah, unfortunately, I'm gonna keep Kate pretty low here at number 29. She just even though it's been years since I've actually used Kate, so I really shouldn't still be sick of her. I'm still kind of burned out on her after all those times that I used her early on in my time in Fallout 4. Number 28, we're going back to Fallout 3. This is Butch Deloria. Now, in terms of characters that I like, in terms of just like the character themselves, Butch would definitely be by far the highest of the companions I've discussed so far, and he would probably be significantly higher on the list. Butch is your bully that grows up in the vault with you in Fallout 3, and he's dumb, and you kind of see not really him evolve. You see him grow up a little bit because you spit of how great the introduction is Fallout 3. I can't say enough good things about that introduction, especially the first time through. And it was whenever I found out that he could be your companion out in the wasteland after that. Technically, you have to go back and do the quest. There's another side quest that opens up in Vault 101 that does isn't open until until kind of the mid game. Um, so you have to go back and you have to resolve that quest, and you have to. I think you have to resolve it in certain ways too. I don't think you can just resolve it anyway. I could be wrong about that, but well, obviously Bush has to survive. That's another thing is that he's definitely not marked as essential. You can kill him very easily, and he could die. But anyway, if he survives, he goes out to Rivet City, and then you can recruit him there. Now he can only be your companion if you have neutral karma, which is pretty tough. Like that's actually the one that's the hardest to maintain in Fallout 3. Good news is you only have to have the specific karma when you first hire them, and then you can kind of go about your business. If you go light or you go dark, I don't think any of them are going to give you any trouble about that, unless you try to rehire them again. I think the main reason I have Butch so low is because he really sucks in terms of combat. Like he's squishy as hell. He'll easily die if you take him anywhere that is even sort of dangerous. His weapon out of the gate is a 10 millimeter pistol. That's really not very good, especially in Fallout 3, where it's much worse than the 10 millimeter pistol in Fallout 4. And then he has a unique weapon for his melee weapon called Butch's Toothpick, which is just like this switchblade. Well, switchblades are freaking terrible in Fallout 3. And so I mean, its DPS is 30, its attack damage is 10. So it's not he's just not good. He's if you take him out and you don't like give him some strong armor and give him a strong weapon and watch him like a hawk, he's gonna die on you, and that's just the way it is. Which is a shame because I do well, in a way I think that's actually kind of funny because your character kind of tells him like, hey man, I know you rang that little greaser gang in the vault, but it's serious business out here. And he's just like, whatever. I can handle it. And, so I think that is actually kind of part of his character. But realistically, if I'm ranking the companions based on a number of factors, including how good they are, I can't really justify putting Butch any higher than this. But I love him as a character. Love the performance of that voice actor. He just kills me every time. But I'm going to leave him at number 28. So number 27, going back to Fallout 4, this is the other DLC companion. Well, I guess you have Ada as a DLC companion too. But this is the other human DLC companion, which is Porter Gage from Nuka World. Porter Gage, I like Gage a little bit more than Longfellow. He's got a little bit more depth to him, I think. He's because he's a raider, but he's not like just like this boneheaded raider like you would expect. He actually kind of has a little bit going on behind the eyes there, which I think is cool. He is the one that sort of sets the stage for your rise to power at the beginning of Nuka World, but. And he also is pretty strong. He comes with like this unique armor that's pretty powerful. He uses a handmade rifle, which is really powerful for Fallout 4, and so all he kind of comes out of the gate really quite good. And then I like his perk. Okay, it's not like a game changer. But it gives you plus 10 damage resistance, just a general buff of plus 10 damage resistance, like basically one perk of whatever the damage resistance. I guess it's the toughness perk. It's like one rank of toughness, and then plus 5% more XP per kill. So I mean that's kind of interesting. Plus 5% is not a lot, but because you are killing stuff all the time in Fallout 4, like it actually does that up. And because Fallout 4 doesn't have a level cap, there's really no reason not to boost your experience as much as you can and gain levels as quickly as you can. So, not a terrible perk. It's not like a game changer in any way, but it's the first perk that we've discussed where it's not like, wow, that's completely worthless. I guess it's not really fair because Hunter's Wisdom from Old Longfellow isn't completely worthless either. It's just kind of more useful in Far Harbor than anything else. I guess it if you're going up against like some Mirelurk queens, it might help you out there too. But so in a sense, you could argue the old Longfellows is more useful, but Porter Gage, I think he's just more of a more complete character, and his is more generally useful. And he's more powerful out of the gate with his armor and that handmade rifle. Um, and so I think the reason that I don't have him super high is because you really, and this is kind of a problem I have with Nuka World in general, is there are pretty big ramifications for actually completing Nuka World and starting to raid outside into the Commonwealth. It totally turns precedent on you, which is understandable, and it's just hard to motivate yourself to like actually really go out and do that. Like it really kind of is the opposite of because generally like your character in Fallout 4 is a good guy. Maybe he's got like a little bit of a dark edge to him, or a sarcastic edge based on the options you have when in dialogue. But typically, it's not like you're not like a raider. I mean, nothing else, nothing in the game really like the four endings, for instance, like none of them really sort of are conducive to a raider playstyle. So it's kind of hard whenever you're trying to role play a character. You're trying to come up with this character that makes sense where you would actually be able to complete Nuka World while still kind of maintaining any sorts of co- cohesion with your character and the rest of the game. It's kind of tough. You kind of have to be going for like a specific kind of character. I know I did like a kind of a Joel-esque playthrough, Joel from The Last of Us. Like this is years ago, before The Last of Us Part 2 was even out. But I know I went for like a Joel type character one time, and I think that's the first time I ever completed Nuka World. And right now I have a character going that's kind of more based on Jango Fett from Star Wars, and I'm definitely planning on going. And this is a survival mode playthrough. I've only done survival mode like one other time, and really I'm having a great time with it. But he's kind of more, he's a kind of a darker character going for like a more Jango Fett style, who's not like just scum, but kind of has he's willing to kind of do a lot of things for money and power, and so. But I'm planning on doing a Nuka World with this character as well, and actually going through with it and completing it. So we'll see how Porter Gage performs there. But like I said, it's kind of more of an issue I have with Nuka World in general, where it's just kind of hard to motivate your character to go through with some of that stuff. So, but as a companion, pretty solid. Porter Gage, I've got him at number 27. Number 26. This is a companion that I originally planned on putting lower, but I don't know. She actually does kind of do something for me. I think that her performance is funny, and she is more memorable than a lot of the companions that I have below her. So number 26 is Clover from Fallout 3. So Clover is one of the companions that you can have if you have an evil karma in the game, and she's the one that's kind of the more off the beaten path because the other one, Jericho, you can get in right at the beginning of the game, which is a benefit to him for sure. You can get him in Megaton, but Clover, you actually traditionally you buy her because she is a slave. Fallout 3 has a pretty big slavery problem. And there's some pretty dark stuff, really dark stuff, in fact, that you can do as a kind of a slaver type character. And one of them is you can buy your own slave, which is Clover. And she's like a slave, but she's kind of into it, and that's because her brain is clearly messed up. Like she's got something going on with her psychologically for sure. She is not healthy, I can tell you that. But I get a kick out of the performance of that character. She actually has a surprising amount of health for companions in Fallout 3. Like she I think she has the most health of any human companion. I guess Charon has the same amount as I'm looking at the list here, but she has more than Jericho, for instance, which doesn't make a ton of sense. But so that's kind of interesting. Out of the gate, she's not super strong. I mean, she does have a sawed-off shotgun, which is not a terrible weapon. And she has a Chinese officer sword, which is actually one of the better melee weapons in the game too. But she comes out of the gate just wearing a dress, so you definitely want to put some better armor on her than that. And so it is very easy for her to die. It's also very easy for you to kill her because it's very easy to turn the people of Paradise Falls against you. Especially if you're playing as like a kind of a good character and you're not going to be participating in any slavery, then it's easy to turn them against you, especially if you don't have enough speech to get past McCready and Little Lamplight, and you have to go and save the kids from Paradise Falls. it's easy to get them to turn on you. So in a lot of playthroughs, she'll just die and you'll kill her. But if you are morally dubious enough to either to acquire her, I guess if you want to call it that way, which is a terrible thing to say, she actually is a pretty entertaining character. She has a little bit more personality than a lot of the Fallout 3 characters. Certainly, like if you compare her to Star Paladin Gross, and she's actually more powerful out of the gate than you expect. And you can power her up to be even better than that. So I can't put her much higher than that. Obviously, she doesn't give you any perks as opposed to most of the other companions in New Vegas and 4, and so there's not a whole lot else going for her, but I do kind of get a kick out of Clover, and so as a result of that, I've put her at number 26. Number 25 is now the final DLC companion from Fallout 4. This is Ada from the Automatron DLC. I always get mixed up whether it's Automatron or Automaton. It's Automatron. So there you go. But anyway, she is a robotic companion. So I mean, you obviously have Codsworth, you have Curie at the beginning, and then you have, well, I guess you have X688 if you count Synth as a robot. But I mean, what are we doing here? And then you have Ada, who is a robotic companion. And what's really cool about Ada is that just like all robotic companions in Automatron, which you can create your own, which is also really cool. I didn't rank that because it's not really a character. But with Ada, you can completely customize her with the Automatron DLC, with all kinds of different mods that you can put on her. And I do think that is really cool. That's an amazing feature with Automatron. I'm really impressed by the depth and the options that they give you for creating robot companions in Fallout 4. And so that's a big part. That's a big boost for her. And part of the reason that she makes it as high as she does at this list, as a character, not super strong. She does actually have an arc at least to a degree with the Automatron DLC. She doesn't have her own bespoke quest. Her quest line is just basically the quest line of the DLC. And you do actually have to have her with you at times during the DLC to break down the whatever the antagonist stupid name is, the mechanists barriers at different times. So you do actually have to have Ada with you at certain times in the DLC, but you can get through those pretty fast and then get rid of her, which is what I have traditionally done. And a big part of that is because Ada is actually the only companion in the game that does not give you a perk at all. I still have her above some of the Fallout 4 companions because some of the Fallout 4 companions perks are so bad that it's almost like they didn't give you a perk. But I can't really justify putting her above many other Fallout 4 companions because they do give you perks, and they're frankly more fleshed out characters than Ada. But the customizability of Ada is really cool, and she has some personality, so I give her a little bit of points for that. And it is cool that she has a quest line, and the Automaton DLC is not bad. So I've got her at number 25. Number 24, we're sticking with Fallout 4. This is Dogmeat from Fallout 4. This is going to be another, obviously, controversial placement probably on this list because there's a lot of Dogmeat fans out there. I love Dogmeat. I'm especially the Fallout 3 Dogmeat, which we'll be talking about much later. But Fallout 4 Dogmeat, the Dogmeat in Fallout 4 pretty squishy out of the gate. Now you can use the attack dog perk, which is a perk that's actually one of the options on your perk chart. I think it's like what is it? 4 charisma, I think, to get that. And so it has multiple ranks in it, and it'll make a Dogmeat a lot more powerful. And that's cool if you want to go in that direction. I never do that, and the reason is because there are so many benefits for using all of the other companions in the game. Like if you're gonna go with attack dog, you pretty much have, to me, for that to make that worth it, you've got to be like with Dogmeat like the whole time, and it's never probably going to happen unless you just really don't like the other companions or you want to do the Lone Wanderer buff, which I know some people do. So you can get this really powerful perk called Lone Wanderer, but it only works if you aren't traveling with any companions. But it does work with Dogmeat. And so if you want to get Attack Dog and Lone Wanderer, then it's a really powerful combination. There's no doubt about it. And so that's part of the reason that I have, he's not any lower on the list. And Fallout 4, Dogmeat, he's a dog, so he doesn't have obviously the personality that a lot of the other companions have. There is no quest line for Dogmeat or anything like that. They did actually mix him into that one quest where you're tracking down your spouse's killer, which is cool that they actually found a way to use him in some way in the main quest. But other than that, there is no nothing else sort of waiting for you with Dogmeat. You're not incentivized for using him because unless you're using a Lone Wanderer perk because he does not give you a perk for maxing out his affinity. His affinity is always maxed out with you because he's Dogmeat. So there's that. His ability is actually kind of cool where he sort of goes around and finds stuff for you. Now that can lead you into bad situations because sometimes he'll find stuff that's behind like a trap or something. I've definitely been killed following Fallout or following Dogmeat and like stepping on a mine that I wasn't expecting. It goes back to like my original playthrough, I think. Um, but so it's not like great. And like I said, he's really squishy without the attack dog perk, and you're gonna have to heal him a lot in survival mode or just let him recover on his own in the regular game. I think the main thing that holds him back is just because there's all these disincentives from using him in Fallout 4. If it was like a situation like 3 or New Vegas where you could keep him with you at all times and get another follower, which really I think is what they should have done, then I mean Dogmeat in Fallout 4 would be amazing. He would be like so high on this list, especially if you could power him up with Attack Dog in addition to using other companions. But because you can't, you're just really disincentivized from using them because the more companions you use and max out their affinities, the more perks you get, and some of them are actually pretty powerful. And you get their individual stories, you get their individual quests. You just don't get any of that with Dogmeat. And so for those reasons, I have Dogmeat at number 24. Still love him. So I love that he looks like a German Shepherd. I think it's really cool that you with the Creation Club, which is now apparently going to be available to everybody that buys the updated version of Fallout 4. Don't know if I'm going to do that because I'm playing it right now, maybe someday. But you actually customize the dog meat to look like different dogs, and that's really cool. Like that would have been an awesome option, is just to end the game out of the gate. But so there's positives with him, but I just couldn't justify putting him any higher than that. And number 23 is kind of interesting because number 23 is Rex, which is the dog companion from Fallout New Vegas. This is our first Fallout New Vegas companion, and yeah, I mean, I wouldn't call myself a Rex hater, but I'm not a huge Rex fan, if I'm being honest. And part of that is just because you can have Rex with you, or you can have Edie with you. Those are like your non-humanoid companions. People call him Eddie. People call him EDE. I call him Edie. Part of that's because I'm a Mass Effect fan, and that just kind of rolls off the tongue for me now. But um, yeah, Rex is like the other option besides Edie. You get Edie a lot earlier. Edie's a lot more powerful. And especially if you're playing in hardcore mode, which I always do when I play Fallout New Vegas, Rex can, your companions can die, and Rex is really, really squishy unless you give him the Lupa brain, which is part of his quest, nothing but a hound dog, and that kind of is sort of lame as well because it just kind of almost forces you to go in that direction because you actually have three different brains you can give him. One of them's pretty worthless, but two different brains you can make him more your attack very powerful, more powerful. You can make him more sturdy. If you're not playing on hardcore mode, I'd say yeah, it probably makes more sense to make him do more damage. But in hardcore mode, where he's just so squishy, especially going up against Cazadors, um, he is just you definitely want to get him the armor perk. And the thing is, like, he puts himself in situations more than your other companions where they can easily get killed because obviously he has to get into melee range. And if you're out there going up against Cazadors or Deathclaws, are just going to surround him and kill him like instantaneously. So if you're going to really use him in hardcore mode, you really do have to like tell him to wait. And even when he has the damage resistance buff, like you're gonna have to tell him to wait and like really watch out for him, kind of like a real dog, I guess. But it's just kind of a pain whenever you have just frankly a superior option available. And Edie does not have to get in melee range. Is really powerful even out of the gate, and then gets even more powerful if you upgrade his attack, or you can make him a lot more durable as well, which is typically what I go with. But yeah, it's just because you have that other option available, it just really doesn't make a whole lot of sense to use Rex for gameplay purposes. Now, if you're just a dog fan, you think he's cool, he's a cyber dog, it's kind of unique, then, by all means, like he's definitely got a little bit more going on than some of these other people that I have him above. He's definitely got some character to him as a robotic dog. And he does have a quest line where you have multiple options of how you want it to play out, and that's kind of cool. He's the personal dog of the king also, so you get to talk to the king about Rex, which is fun. So he's not totally trash, but yeah, in terms of the utility of using him, it's just there's really no reason to ever use him other than Edie. So for that reason, I've got him at number 23. Number 22, going back to Fallout 3, I have Jericho. Now this is maybe people might argue that Jericho should not be this high on the list. But part of the reason that I have Jericho so high is because you can get him basically right at the beginning of the game, and all you have to do is have evil karma to be able to do it. And you might have to pay him too, depending on what your speech is at, which is probably not super high at the beginning of the game. But so you might have to pay him as well to basically hire him. But and, some people be like, well, I don't want to be an evil character, so I'm not going to use Jericho, and that's fine. But the thing is, you start off with neutral karma, and all you have to do really is just kind of go around and steal a bunch of stuff in Megaton, and you can get evil karma pretty easily. Hire Jericho, have him as a companion, and then, like I said, he's not going to leave you if you become a good guy later on, and then you can just kind of play like you were originally planning to play. And the reason that I have him pretty high is he actually is kind of a interesting character. Like it's kind of cool to. I mean, he is a raider. He's a retired raider, but he really is just like unlike Gage. He really is just kind of thinks like a typical raider, which is that's interesting to have that as an option for a companion. But beyond that, because he's a really early game companion, he's actually really powerful. He comes out of the gate with a Chinese assault rifle. The assault rifles in Fallout 4 are really strong, and the Chinese assault rifles in particular, they're kind of a mainstay of that game. And the fact that he just comes out of the gate with him with one infinite ammo, that is really powerful. And then he has a nail board for do it for melee attacks, which is not very good. But the thing is, like, he doesn't ever really need to use that because he's got that Chinese assault rifle. He still is like most Fallout 3 companions. He is still squishy, so you are going to want to give if you stick with him kind of into the more dangerous areas, you are going to want to give him better armor. But that Chinese assault rifle is pretty viable throughout the game, and you don't really have to juxtapose that with or supplement that with a different character, a different weapon. So that's pretty cool. And just because it's so easy to get him, I think that kind of he just has a lot of utility. There's really no reason unless you just really don't want to just get him right out of the game, out of the gate, and have a pretty strong companion with you at the begin at the in the early game. And so for that reason, I have Jericho pretty high. I have like a decent number of memories with Jericho. And another thing that I always I just think is kind of interesting about Jericho is he's very easily killed because if you decide to blow up Megaton, obviously he will not survive. Uh, and so that is pretty cool as well. Like it's part of it kind of adds to the I don't know, just the impact of that choice that you can. There's so much stuff that if you blow up Megaton, you like lose out on so much. There are such high ramifications for doing that, and losing a potential follower in a game where followers are limited is one of them. So. Anyway, I have a lot of memories with Jericho. I like him. He has a lot of utility in Fallout 3. Obviously, doesn't give you any perk or anything like that, like all the other Fallout 3 companions, but very useful, particularly in the early game. So I've got him at number 22. Number 21, I've got Robert McCready from Fallout 4. This is the first one where the only reason he isn't any higher is really purely based on his character. I gotta be honest, I don't really care that much about McCready. And it's a shame because McCready is obviously in Fallout 3, and I'm a huge Fallout 3 fan. I played Fallout 3 before the others. I played them in order, basically, starting with Fallout 3. And so, I had almost a decade with McCready in my mind, and then to find out that he was in Fallout 4 as an adult, that was pretty crazy. Like I was like, whoa, that's pretty awesome. His character changed a lot in that amount of time as his brain developed, I guess. And so he's not as much of a character just in general. And I think I have a little bit of a disappointment with that. I sort of understand it is more realistic, but yeah, he's just kind of he doesn't have a whole lot going on. He's just kind of doesn't have a lot of personality, which is a little bit disappointing. And so that puts him at, kind of where he is. But as a companion, there's no doubt about it. He is really strong. You do have to hire him for 250 or 200 caps. But he'll pay you back if you get his affinity up, so that doesn't even really matter. He does have his own bespoke quest, Long Road Ahead, which is fun to complete. He has a sniper rifle out of the gate, so pretty powerful. And then the perk that he gives you is really good. It's called Kill Shot, and it gives you in VATS 20% increased accuracy for headshots. And what was crazy about this perk when the game first released, it actually increased your accuracy by 2,000%. So headshots were 95% all the time. And that was crazy. I remember playing the game when that was still active, and it was like, oh my God, McCready is like the greatest companion of all time. They patched that out, obviously, and so now it is fixed. and it is just 20%. So that hurts him a little bit, I guess. But yeah, out of the gate, if you played Fallout 4 in 2015, he would have been probably number one on this list in terms of his utility. But yeah, he's got a good perk. He's got a good weapon. It's cool that he's in Fallout 3, but I just find him a little bit dull compared to some of the campaigns in Fallout 4. And so part of that is a credit to the campaigns in Fallout 4. I think that they did a really good job with a lot of the characters that they made in Fallout 4, especially compared to Fallout 3. But that kind of reflects poorly on some of the campaigns that I think are a little bit more dull, and McCready is definitely one of those, unfortunately. So I have him at number 21. But at this point, we're kind of getting into the mid tier of the list, and so all of these companions are fairly solid. Like there's nothing like really inherently wrong with any of these. Number 20, I have X688, also from Fallout 4. X688 is also, basically a zero on in terms of personality. I think X688 is cool though. He kind of gets some cool points from me just because he is a synth, he is a courser, and they are feared in the world of Fallout 4. They're kind of the people that go around kidnapping people, and then also they reclaim the synths that run away. So you probably won't use X688. Well, you really won't at all unless you go with the Institute ending. So that does limit him. Because you really only get to keep him with one of four endings. Otherwise, he's gonna die. But in a way, that kind of makes him more novel, I feel, because probably the majority of your characters will not go with the Institute. And so for those that do, it kind of makes it like, oh man, I should use X688. This is like my one opportunity to use him. And he's fairly powerful. He does come with an Institute rifle, which shoots really fast, and can put some damage on enemies. And obviously, he has infinite armor for that. He wears the Courser uniform, which isn't really the best armor, but it is better than a lot of the armor that a lot of the other companions use out of the gate. So it's actually a little bit more powerful there than you would expect. And then he gives you this perk Shield Harmonics, which it isn't the flashiest perk in the world, but it gives you plus 20 damage or energy resistance, not damage resistance. And so that's like basically two perk points into Refractor, which is, not nothing. Especially if you have Refractor, it's going to really kind of max out your energy damage resistance, especially if you're like wearing power armor and everything on top of that. Actually, not bad, especially in survival mode. The problem with that is that you can't really get it until in the late game with the X688 because you really can't max out his affinity until I think you get pretty far with the Institute. I think you have to at least complete Mankind Redefined, which is, at that point you've probably made the decision to go with the Institute unless you're sort of infiltrating as the Railroad, and in that case you're probably not going to stick with X688. You certainly won't be sticking with them for the long haul. So yeah, you basically have to go with the Institute to use them. And I think part of that is the novelty of him is part of the reason he's as high as he is. I think he's fairly powerful, and he doesn't overstay his welcome. He's not like somebody that you can really get sick of. I know that some people don't like him because he doesn't have enough of a personality, but yeah, at the same time, he's sort of a synth that has been socialized to not really have a personality and just kind of be unthinking, unfeeling robot. And so I like that. And then he does have an affinity that you can build up with him, which is kind of interesting. And so for all those reasons, I have X688 at number 20. Take it or leave it. Number 19, I have Charon from Fallout 3. I never really know whether you're supposed to say it Charon or Charon. But either way, it is the ghoul companion in Fallout 3. I mentioned him earlier. This is the companion that anybody can get, but you have to buy his contract, which is really expensive, from his employer, Mr. No, it's not Mr. Crowley. It's Azrakal down in the underworld. And so, because anybody has access to him, as long as you either have money or you're willing to kill somebody for Azrakal, which I have done, I'm not proud to admit it, then anybody has access to him. So as a result of that, I find that I've used Charon more than most of the companions, if not, well, other than obviously Dogmeat, but most of the companions in Fallout 3. He comes out of the gate pretty powerful. He wears leather armor, so he actually armors himself up. He comes with a shotgun, which is kind of a unique shotgun actually, because he actually has to cock it every after he shoots every time, which is weird because it looks like a just a typical combat shotgun in the game, but you do not have to do that with. So I don't know, that's kind of weird, but yeah, he has a powerful shotgun out of the gate. He has a combat knife. It's his melee weapon, but which is pretty useless. But you know, the shotgun is pretty powerful. The only problem that he runs into is he might try to stay at range and shoot that shotgun, which is obviously not super effective. But if he gets up close with enemies with that shotgun, I mean, he's going to take them down for sure, unless he just really gets swarmed. And I think just kind of for utility purposes, because of the way the companions work in Fallout 3, I have him up this high because, like I said, anybody can utilize him, and you can get him fairly early in the game. You might be running for your life in the mall in DC, but you can get to you know they send you out there to fix the Three Dogs radio, and you can get Charon when you do that very easily because you just go down, dip down into Underworld at the Museum of History, and you can get them. So I guess the biggest obstacles are you either need a lot of money or you need to be morally dubious enough to kill that person for Azrakal. But if you're willing to do either of those things, then yeah, you got Charon available to you, and he's a solid companion in the game for sure. And you know he has like almost no personality at all, but he does kind of have this interesting psychological thing where he works for whoever has his contract. It's basically a slave, and as soon as you get him from Azrakal, he immediately kills him because he hates him, which is kind of entertaining. So I don't know. He's got some positives for using him for sure, even though he's maybe a little bit lacking in the personality department. And for that reason, I got him at number 19. Number 18, I have Sergeant RL3 from Fallout 3. Now, this is definitely the companion that I've used the least. I think I might have only used him like once, and that's because you got to have neutral karma to get him as well. You also have to buy him. But what's really great about RL3 is that he's one of the companions of the game that is basically invulnerable because at max his hit points are like 10,000 something. And so like he's not squishy like the rest of these companions. Like the rest of these companions, like Star Paladin Cross, she maxes out like 570. Jericho maxes out at a paltry 360. Clover 385. Charon 365. Butch 335. I mean, he's just made out of paper. But RL3, I mean, he's one of like basically three companions in the game where you're not taking down RL3. That's just all there is to it. Plus, he's a Mr. Gutsy, and so Mr. Gutsy, as you probably know if you've played Fallout, are powerful enemies in the game, and so he definitely makes a powerful ally. Um, for all those, in terms of utility, RL3 is basically as good as it gets for Fallout 3, especially if you're a neutral character. The reason I don't have him any higher is just because, again, he's a robot without a whole lot of personality. He just has like a typical Mr. Gutsy personality, which, to be honest, I am actually pretty entertained by Mr. Gutsy's in the game. But he doesn't have the personality that a typical human follower would have in Fallout 3. But to be honest, a lot of the followers in Fallout 3 have fairly limited personalities anyway, so it doesn't really work against them too much in that game. Works against them in sort of in the grand scheme of the overall companions in the series, which is why he's just kind of here in the mid tier. But in terms of utility, if you're playing Fallout 3 and you're a neutral character, there's really no reason not to use RL3. He's going to be very powerful for you. I guess you can't really. He can kind of if you're kind of going for like a sneaky type character, he is going to be detected because he's a giant floating robot that cannot use stealth at all. So, I guess you kind of look at that as a drawback. But quite frankly, I mean, RL3 is the benefits far outweigh what you lose in terms of sneak, I would say, with him. And so, yeah, really, really strong companion. Probably objectively the best robot companion in the series, but as you can see at number 17, I actually am going to put Codsworth right above him. And that is just, even though Codsworth is way worse in terms of combat and utility, and there's really no reason to use Codsworth either, outside of like maybe the very beginning of the game, because you get so many other companions in the game that are more interesting and also give you way better perks because Codsworth perk is pretty terrible. It's called Robot Sympathy. It just gives you plus 10 damage resistance against entry attacks, but only from robots. So I guess that's mildly useful if you're playing the Automatron DLC, but other than that, pretty useless, I must say. But I like that Codsworth actually has more of a personality. You can max out your affinity with him, and so like it actually you can kind of foster a relationship with him, which I really like that mechanic in with the followers in Fallout 4. I like that you can get him right out of the gate, so that he actually does have some utility there. It's basically him or Dogmeat at the very beginning of the game, and then if you do some of the Minutemen quests, you can use Preston. But pretty quickly, if you continue doing that, the Minutemen quest, he's going to run off to set up the castle for you. So Codsworth becomes one of the until you get to like Diamond City or Good Neighbor if you want to go there first. Then he's basically your only companion other than Dogmeat, and like I said, a little bit of Preston Garvey. So he definitely has some utility in that sense. He's pretty powerful for early game for sure. He's got the flamer. He's got his Buzzblade. So all that's pretty good. I like that you can put a hat on him, and then also with the Automatron DLC, you actually can customize him, similar to what you can do with Ada, which is really cool as well. Um, I haven't like really experimented with that a ton. I don't know if you can actually customize him to the same degree. Like if you can make him like basically an Assaultron and stuff, like that's so crazy. I'm actually gonna look that up right now. Oh, okay. So it says you can customize Cos with the Automatron DLC in Fallout 4, but it does remove his ability to wear a hat. So you can change his body, arms, legs, and weapons to make him a more powerful combat companion. Um, and will lose his original appearance and his ability to wear a hat, which that's something. Yeah, that's a somewhat of a loss. But if you're just making him like way more powerful, then it's totally worth it. And then you get to keep his personality and everything. Make him a sentry bot. I mean, that's crazy. So yeah, I mean that alone like really boosts him up. Like there's really no reason to ever use Ada other than the just like doing the Automatron DLC where you have to. Um, over Codsworth because you can just totally customize Codsworth, just like Ada, and Codsworth has way more personality than Ada, and like you have like affinity with Codsworth. He's like family, where he's like your robotic butler at the beginning of the game before the bombs drop, and that's just so cool. Like, I think the Automatron DLC is so cool, super underrated in terms of what it can allow you to do with those robotic companions. But and then also in survival mode, I've noticed he actually will give you purified water over time, which is pretty useful because you have to drink water a lot in survival mode. So that's pretty handy. So yeah, I really like Codsworth. Really, the only thing that is holding him back is the fact that um, he really his perk is terrible, and so there's really no reason to use him compared to a lot of the other companions in Fallout 4 that in terms of fishing for perks, trying to get perks and trying to get quests. Also, he doesn't have a quest that you do with him or anything like that. So he definitely has like less incentives to utilize him, but if you actually customize him with that Automatron DLC, you could easily make him the most powerful follower in the game. On par with Ada and the general robotic companion. So you know, Codsworth, I was gonna say he's definitely underpowered compared to Sergeant RL3, but you actually make him probably just as good as RL3 if you're willing to tinker with him enough. So yeah, I really love Codsworth, and I think he is a lot of fun and I've used him a little bit on my current playthrough, and I really like that if he knows like a lot of names, so like depending on what name you put in, he might actually call you by name, which is really fun. A lot of positives with Codsworth, so I have him right here, right at the middle of the list, right at the top of the bottom half. So moving on to number 16 now, we have Deacon from Fallout 4. Deacon is the railroad companion that you will get if you join the railroad. He's kind of has this unique thing where I mean you can dress him like you can with all the companions, but he has this unique thing where he actually like will change his outfit periodically just because he does that, which I do think is cool. And like if you lose that if you put armor on him. Unfortunately, you kind of need to do that because his what he wears is like no armor whatsoever, and so you kind of need to put on his armor, and then like you kind of lose out on that little running gag, which is a little bit of a shame. But yeah, he's got a sniper rifle, pretty good weapon out of the gate. He also gives you a good perk if you are a stealth build. So he gives you Cloak and Dagger, which gives you increased sneak attack damage by 20% and increases the duration of stealth boys by 40%. I'm not a big stealth boy user, so that doesn't do a whole lot for me. But 20% sneak attack damage is no joke. That is a legitimately really strong perk, and so that is definitely worth considering, especially if you're going for a stealth character. I think his perk is actually bugged too because it says that I think it says that it only works with like oh no maybe I'm mixing it up with Mr. Sandman where Mr. Sandman it only works with silenced weapons, but I'm pretty sure that Cloak and Dagger works with any kind of weapons, just any kind of sneak attack. So that's pretty cool. Um, As a character, Deacon definitely has a lot of personality. I like how you can find him undercover in the game before you actually meet the railroad. That's probably my favorite thing about him, my favorite little joke with Deacon. He actually, he's a little bit more psychologically interesting than you think because he actually puts up like this mask about not really wanting to be open with you, and he'll like tell you these stories, and then like you'll find out that they actually were not true. Because he's just kind of messing with you, or he's just, it's sort of like twisting your expectations with how companions work in Fallout 4 as you build up their affinity. But then at the end, he like actually is like really honest and sincere with you. So that's kind of, I guess you find that sort of satisfying. To me, he doesn't really jive. His personality doesn't really jive with me compared to some of the others in the game, and so I put him a little bit lower, even though enjoy going with the railroad, and I probably have done the railroad ending more than any of the others. Probably railroad ending the most, and then Institute, and then Brotherhood and the Minutemen. Although I did do the Minutemen in ending the first time I played the game, unfortunately, but which is definitely the worst. But yeah, I like him fine. Like I said, his personality holds him back a little bit. For me, I think for a lot of people, they would probably put it a lot higher. He doesn't have his own quest, but he is, definitely a big part, especially of Tradecraft, which is a quest that you get joining the railroad. He basically is the one that gets you into the railroad. So I like him for all those reasons. I do think that he is funny at times, particularly the way he interacts with other people in the railroad base, railroad HQ, I guess. So top half of companions. Just there's others that I just like more than him, even though his perk is pretty strong. So number 15, we're about to get into some, you might have noticed that we haven't really done any New Vegas companions outside of Rex. Well, we're going to get into some New Vegas companions right here. Obviously, they're all pretty good considering that I put, other than Rex, I have them all in the top half. So that's a credit to the companions that they were able to come up with in New Vegas. Definitely one of the strong suits of that game. And so we're gonna talk about our first like actual human companion in New Vegas at number 15, which is Rose of Sharon Cassidy, commonly referred to as Cass. So Cass is a cool companion. I just don't like her as much as a lot of the other companions in the game. She does the least for me in terms of the companions. I actually only recently found out that she's the daughter of a character in Fallout 2, which is pretty cool. And apparently that character like just kind of ran out on him, just left the family. And so she kind of grew up without a father, so it's kind of tough. She's like a drinker, and she kind of is like the tough girl sort of archetype in the game, and that's fine. It just doesn't work for me as much as some of the other just sort of characters that they came up with. I like her quest okay, but it is kind of monotonous. It's basically just going around in the desert and finding all these destroyed caravans, and then she finally realizes that there's sort of this conspiracy that was taking out rival caravans, including her own, from some of the bigger caravan players, and then you either decide to resolve it peacefully and turn them in, or just go in and kill them all. And that's okay. That's something. It's a quest, but I definitely would put it lower than pretty much all of the companion quests in Fallout New Vegas. And then she gives you, let's see, she gives you this perk when you're with her. I think it's called Whiskey Rose, which Whiskey Rose, it's not really that good. It's not bad. It you get no negative effects from alcohol, whiskey, and wasteland tequila, and then you increase your damage resistance while you have or damage threshold is what's called in New Vegas when you are drinking. Um, I thought it was just whiskey, but maybe it's all alcohol. That's okay, but it doesn't remove the possibility of getting addicted to alcohol. Which I just never am a big drinker or drug user in the Fallout games. I like, yeah, they as Fallout 4 I probably use them the most just because like they do have some more dramatic benefits, I would say. But especially in Fallout 3 New Vegas, it's like you get addicted pretty fast, and then you got to deal with like the debuffs that come with that. Having some DT bonus, like maybe like if you're going up against like some really tough enemies, like some Death Claws or something, it might come in handy. But yeah, I don't know. The majority of the time that you're playing New Vegas, like you're probably just gonna like get really powerful armor and have your DT boosted that way. Like I've never really relied on that Whiskey Rose perk, and so it's kind of a miss for me. And then, like I said, personality wise, I just like a lot of the other companions better. I like their quests better. And so, even though she's a solid companion, I've got her at number 15 below all of the other New Vegas companions. Number 14, I have Lily from Fallout New Vegas. She is the super mutant companion in the game. She's a Nightkin, which is kind of cool because they're sort of unique super mutants. They're not green like the rest. They're the ones that are addicted to stealth boy use. And she was a former assassin in the Master's Army. I kind of mentioned her earlier. She was basically turned into a super mutant when she was 75. So she has the mind of a 75-year-old grandmother. So that's kind of cool. She doesn't have much of a quest. She's involved with the quest Guess Who I Saw Today, which is actually not a bad quest because it kind of has like a moral conundrum where this Dr. Henry is like trying to cure the Nightkin addiction to stealth boys, and he's like kind of figured out that there's this Night Stalker population near the town that is also turning invisible, and he's studying that and trying to find a cure that way. And then you realize that over the course of the quest, that actually they had just kind of gotten into a stealth boy, and that's how they were turning invisible. And so he has to kind of go back to and work on, a Nightkin volunteer, which is Lily, to try to use this stealth boy Mark II prototype, which he's trying to use as a way to figure out a cure, basically like to pinpoint where in the brain the addiction is sort of stemming from. The science of it, I don't know how I don't know how scientifically accurate it is, but anyway, it just kind of results in like a moral conundrum toward the end because like the other knight can like figure out about it, and they try to steal it from you, and you either have to talk them down or kill them or let them have it. So that's a conundrum, and then you have to decide whether you're gonna allow the doctor to continue to test Lily, and it's gonna permanently damage her brain if he does. So you're told. It's one of those problems with Fallout New Vegas where you're told things and then you don't actually see them reflected in the game. Which I think is probably one of the biggest problems with Fallout New Vegas. But that's kind of interesting. Like there's actually some like choices to be made with the fate of that character as part of that quest, and I think that that's cool. Obviously, Lily is really powerful. Lily comes out of the gate with this powerful sword weapon, but then realistically, what you're gonna give her is Oh Baby because you get Oh Baby, which is the unique super sledge as part of the quest. And so, yeah, I mean, she's going to be extremely powerful up close. And then her ranged weapon as well, I think, is actually an assault carbine, which is no slouch as well as for a ranged weapon. And so, in terms of just like I mean, a lot of the companions are really powerful in Fallout 4, actually, but in terms of like a pure damage outputter, it's tough to beat Lily when you give her a baby and you let her use that assault carbine for sure. Her personality, depending on, your tolerance level. She's a little bit on the annoying side, quite frankly. It's definitely part of the performance. Like that's what they were going for. But the voice is super grating, and it's just, she just doesn't have. Well, she has an interesting backstory. She doesn't have a lot of depth in terms of like what you. She doesn't evolve as a character, other than what you decide whether she's going to continue to be experimented on, and her brain will deteriorate as a result of that. And the closing slides, I guess, because they're not going to actually show you that in the game, God forbid. But she doesn't quite have like some of the interesting stuff that's going on with some of the other Fallout New Vegas companions. So she's still like a really strong companion in the grand scheme of Fallout. Obviously, she's in the top half, but I don't like her as much as a lot of the other companions that you can get in the game that have more interesting quests, sometimes multiple quests, developments with their character, choices to be made with their character, and more conversation to be had based on just things going on with them and things going on in the world. So for those reasons, I have Lily at number 14, still really strong, top half of Fallout companions, but there's a lot of competition for New Vegas companions, and I put her below most of them, although I would put her above Cass. Number 13, we're going back to Fallout 4. This is Piper from Fallout 4. Now, I will be honest, I've always had a little bit of a affinity for Piper. Especially when I first played the game, I had a little bit of a crush on Piper. I'm not ashamed to admit. Part of that is because she's a journalist and I am also a journalist. And so I just kind of had a little bit of an affinity for her in that way. I think her personality is really endearing. She's really well performed. She's quite cute, quite frankly, for Fallout 4 character standards. And so, yeah, Piper does a lot for me in terms of just sort of my, I guess, my type, if you will. And so early on when I played Fallout 4, I would it was hard for me to really justify using anybody else. So especially my first character that I created in Fallout 4, I used Piper pretty much exclusively, Piper and Dogmeat. Or no, you can't even use Piper and Dogmeat. It's just Piper. And so I have a lot of fondness for her. Now, in terms of how strong she is out of the gate. Not very strong at all. She comes with a 10 millimeter pistol, which is, to be fair, better than the 10 millimeter pistols in like a Fault 3, but still not super strong because it hasn't been upgraded at all. And then she doesn't wear any armor at all out of the gate. She has that kind of cute red leather get up that she has, and it just does not could protect her whatsoever. So she is going to be going down constantly. The stuff that she gives you, which is just like sweet foods, is like totally worthless. And so all of those, definitely are holding her back, and that's why she doesn't, make it into the top 10 or anything. If I'm being, trying to be semi-objective here. Now her perk is kind of interesting. It's a unique perk in the sense that it's not going to increase your combat effectiveness in any way, which is, for the way that they did perks in Fallout 4 rare. Instead, what her perk is going to do is it gives you a lot. It's called Gift of Gab, and it gives you like a lot more experience. I don't know if it's so. I guess it's double experience for doing charisma checks and discovering new locations. So it's you're going to get if you get her early on in the game, which you typically will you are actually going to get a lot more experience if you max out her affinity. And because it's fairly easy to do, it's not a bad idea, especially if you just like get her right at the beginning of when you go to Diamond City and then just kind of do all of the little interactions and quests in Diamond City and sort of resolve them in a way that she would like, just as a good person, basically then you're going to be well on your way to maxing out her affinity right there. And you are benefited from doing that because of the gift of gab perk, where you're going to get a lot more experience. And like I said, in Fallout 4, there is no level cap, so there's no reason not to get experience as much as possible. So that's actually pretty cool, especially in survival mode when you already get more experience for killing stuff and just in general in survival mode. So it's she's pretty good in that sense. In terms of she doesn't really have a quest for you, which is a shame, other than whenever she just interviews you at the beginning. I get a kick out of reading her little stories that she writes. She's not an objective journalist at all, and so she's not like kind of what you wouldn't I wouldn't call her like a really great source of information. She's highly uh, editorialized her work, we'll say. And so she's and so as a journalist she's fairly dubious, but hey, what are you gonna do? There's no like actual journalism going on in the world of Fallout 4, so it's like, hey, I'll take what you can get, I guess. I think that her relationship with her sister is cute, and I think she's just a really cute character. I like her a lot. In terms of characters that I like, she would probably be even higher than this, but in terms of just like not super strong in combat. Doesn't have a quest for you to do outside of the interview with her at the beginning. Perk is strong, but it's pretty easy to max her out and then move on to other companions with her affinity. So, she's not really probably if you're kind of trying to min max, not a super long term companion for you in Fallout 4. But I've got a lot of fondness for her. I've got a lot of memories made with spending time with her in the game, and so I couldn't put her any lower than number 13. Number 12, we're going back to Fallout New Vegas. This is Raul Tejada, which is the ghoul companion. Raul is definitely the companion that I've used the least in Fallout New Vegas, and that's because you have to go up Black Mountain to get him, which is, you got to be a pretty powerful character to make it through that crazy, crazy, crazy quest, and finding him at his shack. So I'm actually have a playthrough going on with my wife Reagan right now, where she was like trying to get all the companions, and so we got Raul last, but we got him, and then like I just kind of looked up the wiki to figure out what you're supposed to do to because he doesn't really have a quest, but he does like react to talking to three older characters in the game, and that was interesting. I'd never actually seen that before. So um, you know, it's cool. Like his backstory that he tells you about in the game is pretty interesting. It's another situation in New Vegas where it's like, a lot of showing and not telling. Like he doesn't really have any development in the game that he doesn't really in terms of like reacting to like a quest or doing anything with him in the other than just sort of like steering him a certain direction in terms of where you want. He basically has like two different in-game states, which is like one of them he will kind of go a more peaceful route and decide that he's just gonna devote himself to maintaining your weapons better and not not kind of going dipping back into his gunslinger ways. And then the other option is that he kind of goes back to being more of a gunslinger, and so like it's with the old Vaquero perk, and he gets like more he shoots his guns faster, and it's generally just more effective in combat. I actually don't know. He like the way he talks in the quest, like he if you steer him in the pacifist route, I actually don't know if he'll even continue to fight for you because the way he talks, it made him seem like he wouldn't, which that seems crazy. Like surely he would at least fight back if you're under attack or something. But I actually don't know that for sure. So write in if you know. Because this is like I said, this is a companion that I've spent the least amount of time with. But in terms of utility, pretty strong. He comes out of the gate with I think he comes out of the gate with like a 44 Magnum. That's pretty strong. He comes with a lead pipe for his melee weapon, which is terrible. But that Magnum revolver will pack a punch, no doubt. Especially if you give him the old Vaquero perk. And then also he maintains your weapon, so your weapons generate 50% slower um, normally, and then it actually goes up to 75% slower if you take him down the peaceful route. And then also, apparently, if you send him back to his shack, you can have him repair your stuff for free. That's incredible. Like if that's true, I haven't actually experimented with that, but if that's true, that is like super awesome. So extremely useful in terms of just like repair in Fallout New Vegas. So in Fallout 4 that would mean absolutely nothing because you don't need repair. But in Fallout New Vegas, really quite strong, especially if you're using like unique weapons that are hard to repair yourself. So Raul, really strong companion, no doubt about it. Well voiced by I forget that guy's name, but he's like this kind of older Hispanic guy that's been in a lot of stuff, and including Breaking Bad, but and Spy Kids. But anyway, he is entertaining, kind of novel in the sense that you don't, like I said, he's kind of off the beaten path, and so typically kind of get him later on in the game, and so he doesn't wear out his welcome like someone like Cass might or Lily. Pretty powerful in combat out of the gate. He has this spiffy sombrero outfit if you send him down the old Vaquero route, which is pretty awesome. Really great in terms of maintaining your stuff. So a lot of really strong positives with Raul. I think the only reason I don't put him any higher is he doesn't really have like a bespoke quest, and a lot of his stuff is just sort of reflecting on things that happened to him in the past, rather than kind of taking more of an active role in what's going on in the game. But I still like him a lot. So number 12, I think, is pretty solid for Raul. Number 11, I have Nick Valentine from Fallout 4. He's obviously the synth detective that you get in the game as part of the main quest. Anybody who's played Fallout 4 is familiar with Nick Valentine. Nick is kind of interesting because he's got some positives and minuses. Like his negatives, his perk literally is just. I think it might literally be the most useless perk in the game because even strong or Kate, like their perks are worthless 99% of the time, but maybe you find that 1% chance where maybe one of them might actually come in handy for you. Nick Valentine, able to hack terminals one extra time, and you get a 50% reduction in lockout duration. If you play Fallout 3 in Vegas, you already are conditioned to whenever you're about to fail a hack or you're not sure, you just back out, you start it over, and you try again. You don't need to be locked out of a terminal ever. In fact, I don't know if I ever have been locked out of a terminal in Fallout 4 because I've just been so well trained from playing Fallout 3 in New Vegas, where if you get locked out, you're legitimately locked out, which I like better, by the way. It actually kind of creates some stakes to your hacking, whereas in Fallout 4, it's like if you screw up, whatever, you can just try again. And his perk just makes it to where you can try again without waiting. It's like, God, that is just the most useless piece of crap perk I've ever seen. That being said, though, if you're not a hacker, you can actually have Nick Valentine hack terminals for you, and he won't always succeed particularly if it's a harder terminal. But the fact that you have that option is pretty cool. There's definitely some utility to that. And then what I really like about Nick Valentine is I think he's a really great character, really well written. Particularly if you take him into Far Harbor, he has some really interesting character development. And that, unlike Raul, this is all happening in real time, reacting to stuff that's going on in the game that you're seeing and experiencing with him. So I think that makes it a lot stronger. Plus, he has a kind of dark past that bothers him, like Raul. And then he has this other quest called Long Time Coming, where you can actually get revenge on this mobster that killed this, not even really his girlfriend, but like the brain, like he's a sense, so he's like had this the personality of this cop that really lived back in the past put into him, and like killed his girlfriend or wife or whatever. And this mobster's it turned out it became a ghoul, and so is like still active, and so you can like track him down. It's like really involved quest, and you track him down with Nick. Not a quest that I've done a ton because there's so many other companions in the game that I've only maxed out Nick's affinity a few times. But if you decide to go that route, really fun quest, really interesting to that in terms of his development. And like I said, Far Harbor, you take him and you get a lot of interesting development too. So in terms of like well-written characters, just interesting characters, unique concepts for characters, I think Nick Valentine excels in all those areas. Really comes so short when it comes to his perk, and then also he only wears like his faded trench coat, which gives him like no armor whatsoever, and he comes out of the gate with a pipe revolver pistol, which is not a very good weapon. So, you know, he's not super good in combat, terrible when it comes to his perk, but as a character, really really strong, one of the best in the game. If you wanted to argue that he was the best in the game, I wouldn't argue strongly against that. And so for that reason, that I can't put him any lower than number 11, but I can't also justify putting him in the top 10. So yeah, I put him right there at number 11. So now we get into the top 10 companions in the series. And at number 10, here comes my most controversial pick. And I know that if you have been following this along and you're a Fallout 4 player, then you're like, how the hell has he not said Preston Garvey yet? Preston Garvey is my number 10 follower in the series, and I am dying on that hill. Now, let me justify myself. Yes, Preston Garvey doesn't have a ton of personality. Yes, it is annoying to a degree that he gives you all these Minutemen quests. But that's really more, my argument is that's really more of an issue with the structure of Fallout 4 and the structure of the way they did the Minutemen than it is with Preston himself. I actually think that if you, yeah, he doesn't have as much personality as like a Piper or a Nick Valentine, obviously. He's not as strong of a character. He's not as well written as those. But if you actually like spend some time with him and start maxing out his affinity, he actually is not a terrible character. Like he's not um grading really in any way. Like he's just kind of like, yeah, he really respects you as the general, and like he tells you some stuff that he's dealt with in the past and how much like he really appreciates you. And he's just like kind of like a good friend to have, like there's nothing. He's just like sort of like that friend that you have that's just very amiable, and he kind of goes along with whatever, and he's just happy to have you there, and he's just like a good guy. That's Preston Garvey in a nutshell. I think that his hat is kind of cool, kind of iconic. He has like that unique Minuteman hat. He uses that laser musket, which is no joke. Like that thing will actually pack a punch if he goes to town with it. And then you can obviously supplement it with other weapons. And then he doesn't really wear any armor out of the gate. He looks cool with his duster and everything, but yeah, it's not very good armor. If I am going to be honest with you, but that the scoped laser musket is better than a lot of the weapons that companions will use out of the gate. You can get them really early in the game. I actually don't hate the Minutemen quests. Like, yes, they are kind of repetitive, but especially in survival mode, it actually really does benefit you to align with all those different settlements. And so I actually have kind of gotten into that in this playthrough and in previous playthroughs. Um, I just don't really understand like I'll mark it on your map, like just he's just so heavily memed that it's just like I just think people have just totally written him off just based on like the meme culture surrounding him. And I really don't think that's fair. I actually think that, yeah, he's not like the deepest character in the world, but I think that he's also, to call him like just the word, like I was looking at a list of someone ranking companions, they had him like literally below like this like rapist that you can get as a companion that's just supposed to be a terrible companion in every way in Fallout 1 or 2. I think it's Fallout 2. It's like they have them below that. It's just ridiculous. Like or like the dog that you can get in Fall 1 or 2, where it's just like it just literally ruins your game if you have the companion. They got him ranked below Preston Garvey. It's just absurd, because not only Is he not really a bad character? Is he the leader of a main faction? Is he pretty strong in combat relative to other companions? He gives you, bar none, the best perk in the game for from a companion, which is United We Stand, which increases um, damage resistance and damage output by 20 points each. So it's 20 points of damage resistance. So that's two perks of um, the whatever the toughness perk. So anyway, so that's pretty good on its own. But then you get 20 extra points of damage, or 20% extra damage when outnumbered at least 3-1. Well, if you play Fallout 4, you know that's like all the time. That's like anytime that you're fighting raiders or super mutants or ghouls. It's just like basically at all points you're going to be doing more damage and taking less damage. It's like a freaking incredible perk, and that would be useful for every character in the game. And so you're highly motivated to max out his affinity to get that perk. But a lot of people don't because they just just like, oh, Preston sucks. He's the terrible character, and it's just I really just don't think that is fair. Plus, he helps you set up the Minutemen, and if you actually invest in that and really set the Minutemen up, like you do accomplish a lot. Like that is a pretty impressive achievement, and it actually makes you work for it compared to any of the other factions of the game, which basically just like beg you to join them at a certain point, and you can just join them for nothing. And so just by doing their quests. And so yeah, Preston, I really enjoy the Minutemen playstyle and building them up. I enjoy Preston's perk is incredible, and I really don't like or don't dislike him as a character. Like having him around, I think, yeah, I'd rather have him around than like a Strong or a Cade or even a Deacon. Like I find all those characters significantly more annoying than him. And so, yeah, I just, part of this is maybe me just like kind of going against the grain here, where people are always so quick to jump on Preston and call him a bad character. But I kind of disagree. Yeah, he's not like the best. He's not anywhere near as deep as some of the other characters that I have discussed here in the top half of the list, and then am going to discuss in the remainder of the top 10. But in terms of his perk, unmatched, literally S tier, and he's really no slouch in combat either. So Preston Garvey, man, I think he's an icon. I think that he is a lovable friend that you have along for the ride. He gives you an amazing perk. He helps you set up the Minutemen. He is way too bad a rap for all of the utility that he gives you. So Preston Garvey, number 10 in the top 10, Preston Garvey. Okay, moving on to number 9. Going back to Fallout New Vegas. This is Edie, actually. So this is the iBot companion that you can get in Fallout New Vegas. I know that Hank, my brother-in-law, is a big fan of Edie. And I didn't really understand that at first. I was like, well, Edie doesn't really have any personality or anything. It's just a robot, never talks or anything like that. But the thing about Edie is you end up getting this attachment to Edie because you get him right at the beginning of the game, literally pretty much immediately. Super powerful in the early game as well. And then like he has like kind of as you do his quest, like you kind of find out that there's like a little bit more going on to him actually than you realize. Like he was created by the Enclave, and he kind of has like this mysterious data on him, and to the point where eventually the Brotherhood and the Followers of the Apocalypse reach out and ask you to bring him to them so that they can get that data, and then they'll upgrade him for you. And you can either go with the Brotherhood for the armor upgrade or the Followers for the damage upgrade, which I always thought was kind of interesting. Kind of sort of a juxtaposition of what you would expect. You would think that the Followers would kind of protect him, and the Brotherhood would make him more damage, but it's actually the opposite. I typically go with the Brotherhood because I think he looks cool whenever they upgrade his armor, and also I just generally am playing on hardcore mode, so I don't want him to die on me. But either one is viable, and unlike Rex, where it's just like you really have to give him more armor. Like Edie is not just gonna fall apart generally unless you just have him in like a really tough combat encounter, because he'll actually hang back and kind of shoot at a distance. So he's not just gonna run and get himself killed immediately like Rex will. Doesn't have a lot of personality, it's true, but I like the little song that he plays whenever he gets into combat. Like I don't know, it's kind of iconic, and apparently, you can actually kind of get a version of him in the Lonesome Road DLC, which I have not played yet. Reagan and I are actually playing through some of the DLC in New Vegas right now. We're slogging our way through Old War Blues, which is just god awful. I cannot believe how bad it is. And it has killed many of my playthroughs in the past. I knew going into it was bad, but wow, just truly trash tier game design, just some of the worst gaming I've ever experienced in my life. But anyway, that's not really what this discussion is about. But apparently, Lonesome Road, you can get like a sort of a version of Edie as well. So I'll have to check that out whenever I get to it, if I can manage myself to push through this garbage that I'm playing through right now in Old World Blues. But yeah, in terms of just the main game, Edie is a delight. Really powerful. There's really no reason to ever not use Edie because yeah, you can get Rex, but Edie is just better, and basically every way. And it's nice that you can use Edie and another companion in Fallout New Vegas. So he kind of fills that dog meat role from Fallout 3. So yeah, Edie's just great across the board. Fantastic companion, super useful, and you get him pretty much right away. So Edie for the win. Number 9 on this list. Number 8. Going back to Fallout 4, I have Paladin Dance. So Paladin Dance is the Brotherhood of Steel companion that you can get in the game. And, Paladin Dance on the surface, I don't think would be at this high as a character, because, he's pretty, like, he's definitely, like, totally bought in and indoctrinated into the Brotherhood of Steel way of thinking. Just a perfect soldier for the Brotherhood of Steel. Duty above all else, duty before dishonor, whatever. But Paladin Dance has a twist. And if you have not played Fallout 4, I'm going to encourage you to just skip ahead because I do think that this is something that is worth experiencing for yourself in the game. But if you're listening to this, you probably have played Fallout 4, and so I'm just going to discuss it here. Paladin Dance is a synth, and he does not know that he's a synth. And he finds out that he's a synth like toward the very end of the Brotherhood of Steel arc, where they actually, because the Brotherhood of Steel takes a hard line against synths, they actually send you to kill him, to assassinate him, as soon as they find out, despite all the things that he's done for them. And that sends shockwaves through the Brotherhood of Steel, particularly the people that knew Dance well. And I think it's also the last thing that the Brotherhood of Steel asks you to do before you actually have to be locked in with them and start killing like the other factions. And so for that reason, it kind of takes on like this increased importance where it's like this is like the moment of point of no return. Like you can stop right here. That maybe this is a bridge too far for you with the Brotherhood of Steel, and then you turn against them, and if you kind of do it in that way, like if you're like with them up to that point, then you're like, you know what, I can't do it. You're having me kill my friend. I'm going with the Railroad, or I'm going with the Minutemen, or I'm going with the Institute. Can actually lead to the destruction of the Brotherhood of Steel, like their obsession with killing and eradicating all sins. So I think that's really interesting from that faction's perspective, but also just like what that does mentally to Paladin Dance, who was so bought in, so indoctrinated, and then he finds out that he's basically everything that he was brought up to hate. It's just a really great, like awesome, like great writing, just a great idea for a character, and so just that alone really bumps him up the list significantly, I would say. But in addition to that, in combat, he's obviously way more powerful than probably any of the other companions in Fallout 4 out of the gate because he comes with free power armor and it's powerful, upgraded power armor that you do not have to maintain at all. That is like super great. He has that laser rifle that he does, shoots really fast, and he will mess some people up with that laser rifle like you won't believe. And then his perk, if you actually go down that route, is also really strong, which gives you plus 20% damage against synths, feral ghouls, and super mutants, which is three of the major factions that you're going to be going up against in the game. The problem with his perk is that you have to side with the Brotherhood of Steel, and that is kind of the problem where if you destroy if you because I think that was a mistake. I think what they should have done is they should have certainly made you have to get to the point where he realizes that he's a synth before you can max out his affinity. But then you should be able to convince him to leave the Brotherhood of Steel, kind of like what you did with Veronica in Fallout New Vegas. And then you should be able to have him with you the remainder of the game, regardless of who you go with. But unfortunately, that's not how they decided to do it. Instead, you still have to stick with the Brotherhood of Steel, refuse to kill him, so refuse your orders, but still go with the Brotherhood of Steel ending anyway. And then you can max out his affinity. And that's a shame because I think it would have been more interesting if they kind of went a different route with it. Another problem with that is that it's actually impossible to max out his affinity and get his perk until basically the end of the game because you don't find out that he's a synth until right basically before you're going into the end game with the Brotherhood of Steel. You are gonna destroy the other factions and complete the game with the Brotherhood. So That's also kind of a shame. It definitely limits the utility of that perk because there's just not a whole lot of game left for you to play, unless you just really rush the main quest and then you leave a bunch of side quests for you to do later on, which is just not generally how I play Fallout 4. So, he's lacking in utility when it comes to his perk, even though it is a really strong perk. Now, if you get the perk, it's really strong and it will work out for you. But even if you don't get the perk, he's a really strong character. He's really incredibly powerful in combat. And he's the only perk really, or the only companion that has like really a twist like that. You could argue that like Nick Valentine kind of has some twists and turns with his backstory as well, but nothing like Paladin Dance, where just total, it's just like out of nowhere, boom, it's a big twist. It would be a hard one for you to like figure out that it's coming even. And so yeah, I really like that a lot. I was really blown away whenever I found that out for the first time playing the game. And I think that makes him a so much more of an interesting character combined with his combat effectiveness, and even has a great perk if you want to go down that route. So for all those reasons, I have Paladin Dance in the top 10 at number 8. Number 7, I was thinking that maybe this would be my top Fallout 4 companion, but not quite. We actually have one other above even number 7. Number 7, though, is my penultimate companion for Fallout 4, and that is Curie, the robotic companion from Vault 81. Now, Curie also kind of has like a twist with her character. She does have her own unique quest, and that quest is called Emergent Behavior. And this quest is actually, so she's a Miss Danny robot that was kind of brought up to. I mean, she's programmed with like all these different personalities of like all these great doctors and medical practitioners that actually lived, and then also some that they created for the game. And so she like is really, that's like her whole goal in life, is just to like be like a great doctor and help people, even though that's kind of juxtaposed against what she was doing in the vault, where they were actually uh, infecting this vault unbeknownst to them. Or I guess they didn't do that yet, but they were planning on infecting this vault with these diseases and then curing them. First, they were just experimenting on mole rats, but that was where it was going to go until yeah, some developments happened. You play through the Vault 81 quest and Hole in the Wall to find out more. But basically, she's sort of programmed against what she was actually doing in the beginning, and then now once you take her out of there, you have the opportunity for her to like actually go out in the world and actually become a great medical practitioner. But what's really interesting is that she realizes that she's going to always be limited in what she can do as a Mr. Handy, because that's what she is, or a Miss Nanny, I guess. And so she's like tries to find out this way, like what could she do about that? And what ultimately results is that she becomes a synth herself. So she like kind of gets her consciousness put into the body of this synth. That was a real character in the game that people actually knew, and that's kind of interesting. Like seeing people react to that, people at the railroad in particular actually knew this character in their original form, and now they have like this entirely new personality put into them, and that's like kind of create some trauma for some people. That's really interesting. But also just like for this character arc to go from being a robot to becoming a synth is really interesting. Definitely not something that I would have expected going into this character in that arc, and like just a really great example of character development and growth in the game, reflected in the mechanics of the game. And then once they become a synth, so like at the beginning, they have like the typical Mr. Handy stuff, Mr. Handy laser and a buzz blade. When they become a synth, they have a laser rifle, and then at that point you can customize them and do whatever you want with Curie. Now, granted, you can customize Curie as a robot as well, I guess, with the Automatron DLC, but that's something that isn't going to be sticking around, so you might not want to invest too much in that and if you're planning on completing her quest. And then her perk is also really strong, which is the combat medic. Once per day, she will just automatically heal 100 of your hit points if your HP drops below 10%. So it's kind of like a get out of jail free card there. Now, 100 hit points, depending on how high your health is either a lot or not a lot. But either way, it can like take your ass out of the fire, particularly in survival mode, because it's an instantaneous health gain, which is not what you get in survival mode or even in just like the base game, because everything like, takes a little bit of time, particularly in survival mode too. When you like inject yourself with a stim pack, it's not an instant heal like it was in previous games. So really useful perk, really interesting character development and growth. No slouch when it comes to combat. Curie really is just the complete package. She even gives you stim packs if you talk to her, and intermittently, and she even has her own quest. So I mean, she's really got it all. So for those reasons, she is number 7 on this list. Definitely, I mean, it's like I almost never play Fallout 4 without spending time with Curie just because she is just so damn good and also likable. Like she's a likable character, great personality wise. She got this French accent, which is really great, and she's just awesome across the board. So number 7 for me on this list. Number 6, going back to New Vegas, and this is actually surprising. This is a character that I never really was that interested in. And I might be overrating him slightly, but generally I think that this is a really well written character and an interesting character, and that's Arcade Gannon from Fallout New Vegas. He is a member of the Followers of the Apocalypse. You meet him in Freeside, working at the Old Mormon Fort, which is kind of their base there. He actually, one thing that's kind of interesting about him, he's way more intelligent than a typical Fallout companion, and so you actually kind of have to convince him to join you. He's not just like, I love Piper, for instance, but she's just like, "Hey, do my interview and I'll join you." It's like, all right. But Arcade, he's like, you ask him to join you, and he's like, "Okay, why would I do that?" And it's like, if you have high fame with the followers, you've helped them out. He's like, "All right, yeah, you've helped us out. I'll join you." Or if you have high intelligence, or if you're gay, or if you just have like really high speech, or if you have really low intelligence, he's actually like, you know what? You look like you could use some help. I think I'm gonna actually come with you and kind of watch out for you, which is very hilarious and entertaining. Arcade has a major quest in the game, a quest that I had actually never completed until this last week when I finally did it with Reagan and her playthrough because it happens really late game. But you have to like build up his affinity in the game by taking him to specific locations, doing quests with him, and reacting in the way that he actually wants you to. So it's not as easy as maxing out an affinity in like Fallout 4. And then you find out that he actually is grew up in the Enclave. Like he didn't agree with the Enclave, that's why he left and became a follower of the Apocalypse. But he like knows some people that were also in the Enclave from like Fallout 1 and 2, and you gather them up and you kind of decide what they're going to do in terms of the ongoing conflict between the NCR and the Legion. And you can actually convince them to join with the Legion, apparently. But with this character, which Arcade will immediately leave you for if you do that, but it doesn't really matter because he leaves you at the end of this quest no matter what, as we found out. And anyway, so then like you decide which side they're gonna help. So probably the NCR unless you're doing a Legion playthrough, and then if you play your cards right, you get like some really strong Enclave armor. And then if Arcade, depending on your decision making with Arcade, like you can tell him to like basically, it's kind of similar to Raul, I guess, where you tell him like, hey, join us and in the final assault, and he will. Or you can say, hey, you're doing great work here in Freeside. Just stay here. We'll take care of the fighting, and you keep helping people. Then he gives his unique kind of Tesla armor to you to use for the rest of the game. That's like really awesome. So really great quest. I only did it just this one time, but it's really fresh in my mind and really enjoyed it. I was surprised kind of by the outcome to a degree. But in terms of the character himself, just really well written, really well acted. I like that he actually has a lot of intelligence, and so like he's really kind of looking at things analytically, much more so than what you typically get from a Fallout companion. And it's interesting to have like a follower from the Followers of the Apocalypse, this medical doctor who's a follower. But as I find out, actually Craig Boone is a badass. Or I'm sorry, Arcade Gannon is a badass from in combat because he uses this plasma defender weapon, and I mean he just tears crap up with that thing like nobody's business. Like I went to the Crash Vertibird because he reacts to it, and there's like a lot of robots that attack you, and there's like all these sentry bots coming out, and he like goes up there, starts fighting them. I'm like, oh man, he's screwed, and he just like obliterated them all with that plasma defender. It's like, damn man, that was really impressive. Now I will typically give him some armor because he comes out of the gate just wearing a doctor's outfit, which yes, or a science outfit, which it's not going to help him in combat anyway, but help him stay alive, particularly in hardcore mode, like I said. But still, really good weapon that and he has infinite ammo for it. So I was really surprised by that. I thought he would just kind of be like a well written character that you kind of have to carry along, but that's not the case. He's really powerful and backs it up in combat. So he's really a total package. Really well written, entertaining character, funny at times. And really powerful in combat, and he has his own quest that has major ramifications for the final battle. So, yeah, and then you get like extremely good crest rewards for depending on how things turn out with him. So, just great companion across the board. Just another just total package. Awesome character. So, he's number 6 on this list. Okay, now moving into the top five. We are doing my top Fallout 4 companion here. And if you have been following along in my process of elimination, you must know that it is John Hancock from Good Neighbor, the mayor of Good Neighbor. Hancock, I'll be honest, Hancock is here mostly because I just really get a kick out of him as a character. I love his backstory. I love his the way that he runs Good Neighbor in terms of just kind of this almost anarchist running this town. I think it's really interesting. He's got a lot of style to him. He's very cool. His he's not really great out of the gate in terms of his combat because I mean he comes with a double barrel shotgun which is pretty powerful and combat knife which is not very powerful. His outfit doesn't have any armor on it, which is a shame. However, you can actually put ballistic weave on it if you go with the railroad, or if you just go far enough with the railroad to unlock ballistic weave, and then you can actually armor up his outfit and make it really great armor. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, he's got so much style, so much charisma and character. I just really couldn't justify putting him any lower. Now, in terms of he doesn't really give you a quest, which is a shame. He reacts to quests that you do in Good Neighbor, which I think is cool in a way. Like he actually, in that sense, he's sort of related to like two or three quests in Good Neighbor because he gives you a quest to go check out the Pigman Gallery. Technically, he gives you a quest to clear out the warehouses via Whitechapel Charlie, and then to get him to your side, you have to do the Big Dig, which is another quest in Good Neighbor, which he doesn't send you to do, but he kind of has some interest into how that show turns out. And so all that's really good. I wish he had like his own quests as well, but to be fair, like that's a pretty good amount that he gives you right there. He makes these speeches to the town that are very entertaining. He's his backstory, like I said, is really great. And then his perk, it's not as good as some of the others, but it's actually not terrible. He gives you, it's called Isodoped, which gives you 20% faster critical hit generation, which critical hits in Fallout 4 are pretty important, especially if you really spec into luck and that you're kind of going for a VATS build. So 20% faster generation for it if you have 250 or more rads. That's typically you probably want to avoid having that many rads, but because it cuts down on your max health by 25%. But you still have 75% of your health bar. If you're not playing survival mode in particular, that's actually like a viable way to play the game. And so not bad actually. I'm gonna put that one in kind of like a B tier if I was gonna do like the companion perks. Definitely better than a lot of the crap that you get from some of the other companions. It requires you to weaken yourself to some degree, but nowhere near as much as like a Kate or a Strong. So yeah, I just love Hancock, man. Like I just think he's a great character, very entertaining. Maybe he's not quite as deep as like a Curie or a Paladin Dance or a Nick Valentine, but he's just so entertaining and fun to play with, so fun to be around that I just can't help but put him any lower. He's still pretty solid in combat, especially if you give him some better armor or you improve the armor that he wears, which I would prefer just because it's so iconic. It's such an iconic look for him. And then he gives you a decent perk as well. Unlike Nick, whose perk is useless, or Paladin Dance, whose perk is like really hard to get. Hancock's perk is actually pretty solid. So, pretty another just across the board really strong companion, really great character, very entertaining. I've got him at number five. Number four. So we got two more. If you're even count, we got two more Fallout 3 companions, two more Fallout New Vegas companions. And it might be kind of controversial how I ended up lining these up, but number four, I'm going with Craig Boone from Fallout New Vegas. This is the first companion that I ever got in Fallout New Vegas. He's the because like I didn't actually know that you could get Edie the first time I played the game, and so I got Craig Boone first. He has two major quests that are associated with him. One for my baby, and I forgot to remember to forget. Both of which I think are really strong. I really enjoy one for my baby in particular, like trying to figure out who it was that sold his wife into slavery. It's somebody in Novak, but that's like basically all you have to go on. You have to like kind of piece that together. Obviously now I know who it is, so I just do it immediately. But I remember what it was like to try to figure it out, and that's really fun, and I enjoy a kind of a murder mystery like that. So that was fun. He's absolutely busted in combat because he is a NCR first region sniper. So he has a hunting rifle that he just absolutely destroys everything at great range with. So that's really great. I love that he's got an extremely dark backstory, and he will not tell you about it at first, but you have to build up his affinity, and he'll tell you more about it. And by building up to build up his affinity, basically you have to go around killing the or killing the Legion, which that's another thing about Craig Boone. Like it's high stakes. Like you have to really think about when you want to do that. Like you can do it in the early game, and then the Legion is going to forgive you later on, and you won't have to play the whole game with those Legion hit parties coming after you. But in the early game, you're going to be low level, and they're going to be a huge threat, especially since they can in hardcore mode they can easily kill your companions, including Boone. So that's you know you gotta weigh your options with that. You can also put him off and like say, what, I'm not gonna travel with you, Boone, until the late game, and whenever I'm really locking in I'm going against the Legion, which you probably are if you're playing Fallout New Vegas, and then attack, do them then, and then you kind of minimize your uh vilification by the Legion by doing it in the late game. It also makes it easier because some of those things are actually pretty tough. You have to kill a lot of Legionnaires as part of his quests, and also just to build up his affinity. But either way, like it's high stakes whenever you join Craig Boone. And you kind of have to think about like, hey, do I really want to be associated with this guy yet? Which I think is kind of cool. It kind of gives you pause. Like I said, absolutely busted in combat. He gets even more powerful whenever you complete his final quest. I forgot to forget. Really interesting character arc. He's done some dark stuff in his past, stuff that he regrets. He thinks that he's kind of got the Grim Reaper coming after him because of some of the decisions and actions that he's made, and that's really interesting. The way that it weaves into some of the greater storylines going on with the NCR, I think is really strong. Just awesome, across the board. Just an amazing companion, great character, great quest. Some of the best quests in the game, I would argue. Some of the best character development in the game. One of the best written characters in Fallout. Just across the board, an awesome character. So I've got him at number 4, but I couldn't quite put him any higher than that, and I couldn't put him above my number 3, which is my top Fallout New Vegas companion, which is Veronica Santangelo, I guess is how you're supposed to say her last name. But anyway, Veronica. She is a Brotherhood of Steel companion, but definitely not what you would expect. It's like the opposite of like a dance, for instance, where it's just like totally brainwashed into and a totally full believer in the Brotherhood of Steel cause, death before dishonor, and all that. She is disillusioned with the Brotherhood of Steel. She thinks that they are going down a bad route, and her quest is actually trying to convince the Brotherhood of Steel of the error of their ways, and she's unsuccessful in that goal, which is interesting as well. Like it's typically whenever you're doing a companion quest, like you're gonna help them achieve something. Like Craig Boone, you achieve killing a bunch of NCR with them, or like with Arcade, you achieve bringing back the Enclave remnants and having them, maybe tip the scales in the conflict. With Cass, you achieve getting revenge on the people that wronged her, either by violence or through diplomacy. Veronica, you fail. No matter what decisions you make, you fell in her task. And so then she has to like deal with the ramifications of that. Like what's her next course of action? Is she gonna stick with the Brotherhood even though she doesn't really agree with the direction they're going, but it's all she knows? Or is she gonna kind of go a different direction and join the followers of the apocalypse? So that's really interesting. Playing in hardcore mode, it's also really tough to keep Veronica alive because these these Brotherhood of Steel hit squads will come, or one in particular will come after her, regardless of which decision she makes, and they're unbelievably hard to survive against, and you gotta like fight for your life to survive, much less like try to keep Cass alive. So it can happen. You can pull it off, but it's really tough. So a lot of times Cass is like kind of a tragic character in my playthroughs because she will die either in that attack or somewhere else. And so that's there's just like so much depth there. Then she also like has these relationships with these characters that are key players in the Dead Money DLC, which I don't enjoy playing, but I do think that the writing and the character work in Dead Money is quite strong. And I think it's really kind of interesting, hearing about them from Veronica and then actually seeing them in that DLC. So that's really interesting. So I feel like they kind of wrote Veronica to be the best companion, other than maybe Boone, depending on how interested you are in kind of his sort of revenge storyline. But I feel like both of them are kind of written to be the best, and they are the best. And Veronica, she also just has so much personality to her. She's extremely well acted and voiced. and she just has so much personality to her that you can't really help but love her. And she's got so many lines. I feel like they have more dialogue for her than like any of the other companions. So she has like so many different reactions to things and so many reactions to your questions, and you can ask her a lot about herself as well compared to some of the other companions. So she's just awesome across the board. The best companion in Fallout New Vegas. Oh, and then in terms of combat, I mean, she doesn't. So she just wears like the Brotherhood scribe robes at first. So you do want to kind of give her some more armor. However, you can actually give her Brotherhood of Steel armor, which is pretty awesome because that's like some of the best armor in the game. Power armor, I'm talking about. And then she actually is that unarmed user. She uses a power fist. But man, she will tear crap up with that power fist. It is crazy how much damage she puts out with that power fist, and it's kind of entertaining to watch it too because she just like absolutely obliterates pretty much anything that she goes up against. So that's pretty cool. Let's see here. Well, I guess my one big criticism with Veronica that drives me absolutely nuts is that she loves dresses. She tells you that she loves dresses. You can give her dresses and she'll like be like so super excited about it. But then you never actually like put she never puts the dress on. That is just like so annoying to me. Like why did they like she should absolutely wear the dress if you give her one. You know, maybe you like you give her some other stuff to you know, you maybe you give her armor whenever you want to be in combat. Like you should have some autonomy over whether she wears the dress or not. But when you first give her the dress and all she has is those robes, absolutely she should wear the dress. Which so it's that drives me nuts that they didn't do that, even though she's like made that like a big point of her character. Like she wants the dress so bad, and then like you finally give it to her and she doesn't even put it on. It doesn't make any sense at all. Definition of telling, not showing, which is a huge problem with Fallout New Vegas. And then I also think it's kind of annoying that she won't ever take that hood off. Um, it's not like the end of the world, but I just it doesn't work with some armors as much as others. You know, obviously, if she was ever going to wear a dress, it would look ridiculous. But you know, like you can put like some great leather armor on her, and then or like some metal armor on her, and then she's got like this hood on. It's like doesn't really work super well in terms of just the cohesion of the look. But yeah, whatever. I mean, that's not as big of a problem as her not wearing the dress. I just think that's absolutely insane considering how much of an emphasis they put on that character. But that is my one complaint, my one gripe with her. Everything else about her is an absolute delight. It's really well written, very interesting developments with her character, very interesting decisions that are to be made with her character, and a lot of tragedy with her character, especially if she doesn't survive, which is definitely a big risk by completing her quest. So awesome character. Love Veronica. She's number 3 on this list. So all that we have left is 2 characters, both from Fallout 3, which I know is going to be controversial because Fallout 3 generally has the weakest companions. But whenever I was making this list for me, I just couldn't not have these 2 at the top. And obviously, one had to be above the other. But Fallout 3 is my favorite. It's the one that I spent maybe not the most time with now. It's probably Fallout 4, but just the most time in my life with it is because I played Fallout 3, you know, for the first time probably 15 years ago. And it blew my mind at the time, and I've loved it ever since. And I just have so many fond memories with both of these characters. So at number 2, I have Dogmeat from Fallout 3. And part of my reason for putting Dogmeat up at number 2 is this is my first experience with Dogmeat, and everybody when they first meet Dogmeat, I feel like they have like an affinity for him. But especially in Fallout 3, because in Fallout 3, first of all, I didn't even know that you could get a companion when I got Dogmeat, so that was like a big surprise, and I just couldn't believe how awesome it was that I just had this dog with me for the rest of the game. But also, you can with Dogmeat, you can have Dogmeat, and then you can also have another companion, so it doesn't even take up a slot. That's really awesome. And then with the DLC install, which I've never played Fallout 3 outside of the Game of the Year edition, Dogmeat is basically impenetrable. Now, I've heard that Dogmeat actually had like not very much health in the original base version of the game, and it could die very easily. Maybe that's true, but in the Game of the Year edition that I've always played, Dogmeat is impenetrable. I've literally seen him be surrounded. I'm talking surrounded by death claws. 3 or 4 hitting wailing on him all at the same time. And you know, I was trying. He might have died eventually if I didn't back him up, but he got absolutely annihilated by those death claws. Didn't even flinch, just biting away at him because he just has like infinite health, and it's just like crazy that they did that. I don't know if that was like a glitch or whatever, but it's still in the game, and so he's just like basically impervious to death. And so, in a game where all of your companions can die, and most of them die pretty easily in Fallout 3, that's a pretty good perk. And then also, he's just with you no matter what. He's your ride or die. He doesn't take up any spot. Yeah, he's just a dog, so he doesn't have a lot of personality. But because he doesn't like take away from anybody else like Dogmeat in Fallout 4 does, and he's not made out of paper like Rex in Fallout New Vegas, he's just incredible. Like there's no downside to having him with you whatsoever. And if you've played Fallout 3 like I have, if you've especially back in the day, like you probably have a lot of memories associated with dog meat, and so I just couldn't justify putting him any lower. Now, if he could like easily die or something, then yeah, that would bump him down significantly. And I recognize that obviously he doesn't have the depth of like a Veronica or a Boone or a Hancock or some of these guys that have been in my top 10. But there is literally no downside to using him. With all his other characters, you have to make decisions about who you want to have with you. If you want to have Veronica with you, then you don't have Boone with you, or you don't have Arcade with you, and so you have to like kind of balance that. And they're not going to be with you the whole time. Dogmeat is going to be with you the entire game you play Fallout 3 because there's no reason not to have him, and he's going to be with you no matter what, and he is never going to die, and he is only going to be useful. So it's just like they're just S tier across the board. There's no downside to using Dogmeat whatsoever. You will always have him with you, and it's hard to imagine Fallout 3 without him at this point, just because although the first time I played, I didn't know about him until I stumbled across him in the scrapyard. But I mean, he's just awesome, and I have so many memories with him. And he is the reason I feel that Dogmeat is as popular and famous as he is. And so Dogmeat for the win. He's number two, but I couldn't justify putting him above my number one, which is Fox from Fallout 3. And yes, Fox, because it's Fallout 3, Fox does not give you a perk. That's basically the only negative thing that I can say about him because other than that, he is across the board incredible. He's a really strong character, well written character in terms of the narrative. He has a really interesting story. It was a total twist for me whenever I met him because this is my first Fallout game and I had never seen a sane super mutant that didn't attack you on sight. And there's like kind of like like in the back of your head is like, is this guy just tricking me? Because you never met a super mutant that didn't immediately try to kill you. But if you go through with him, then you find out that he is not tricking you, and he actually gets the Gek for you, and he really helps you out when you're down in that vault. Then like you leave, he sees you get captured by the Enclave, and then whenever you get out of the Enclave base, he actually comes in and backs you up with this like Gatling laser, and he is like, yeah, happy to, I owed you one, so I backed you up right there. And then if you have good karma, it's like such a good reward for having good karma, then he will join you. He's got a Gatling laser, infinite ammo Gatling laser, which with a DPS of 160 absolutely melts enemies. And then he has a super sledge as his melee weapon. So he is literally just a god in terms of combat. You really couldn't even devise a character to be more powerful than him. Plus, he has infinite health. He has like this basically the same thing as Dogmeat, where you literally just cannot kill him. I've seen him literally be launched into orbit on videos on YouTube, and it does not matter. He's just gonna come right back down to Earth, and he's gonna be like ready to go. And so he's impervious. He's essentially impervious to damage, dishes out damage like no other companion you've ever seen. Is a well-written character, an interesting character, and there's like just no downside to him whatsoever. And I have this personal story with Fox as well, where I was blown away by him from the get-go. I thought he was awesome. I thought that getting him out of the vault was super interesting. I was fascinated by the idea that there was like this sane super mutant. And then, but unfortunately, I was actually playing with bad karma because my brother forced me to blow up Megaton, and by force I mean like he literally took the controller and made me tell the people of Megaton that I was about to blow up their town, and then they all turned on me. So I was like, well, I might as well go through with it now, since everybody was hostile to me there. So I blew up Megaton, had insanely evil karma for the whole rest of the game. And so whenever I met Fox at the end, I actually couldn't get him to come with me because he was like, I'm sorry, my friend. The life you've led, I can't justify joining you. Perhaps someday, if if I can align with, your actions, perhaps I can join you. And like that was just so crazy. Like I was just like so sad about that, but at the same time, like he's like walking off, everything's blowing up around him like a badass because I think I had decided to blow up the base at that time. And so it was just like such an amazing scene, and I was just blown away by the idea that I could have this character, but I couldn't because I didn't have enough karma, good karma. And so then it just like motivated me to like try to redeem my character, which was like all just totally just reinforced by the game. And I just totally worked on me hook, line, and sinker. And then as a result of that, he wasn't there with me whenever I completed the game for the first time. And so I went in and did the turn on the purifier myself because it was literally just me or the Brotherhood of Steel Girl. So I didn't have like the out that people talk about. The ending doesn't really work because you can just send Terra on or Fox or RL3 or whoever, and then to turn on the purifier without putting anybody at risk. And that's definitely true. It was definitely a plot hole, but it worked for me because I didn't experience that plot hole the first time I played the game. And so I was like, yeah, I got to sacrifice myself to turn this thing on. And then I thought you were actually going to die, which of course you did in the original version of the game. But because I had the Game of the Year edition, I woke back up 2 weeks later. And Fox was like, yeah, I was able to find him later on. And eventually I think I was able to travel with him like in the post game because I got my karma up high enough. But then so I will admit that is like obviously a unique experience where everything that the game was kind of laying out for me totally worked on me hook, line, and sinker, and not everybody's gonna have that experience. But if you have the experience that I had, he just had so much more impact than any other companion in the game, and certainly in Fallout 3, and really in many of any of the other ones. And even if like there are characters that maybe I like more, like a Piper, for instance, or a Nick Valentine, I think are maybe like better written characters, or you could argue, or even some of those in New Vegas. Fox, like he just has no downside, man. Like his Gatling laser super sludge combo is just unbelievable, and he literally cannot die. So it's just like there's no like he's in terms of how strong he is in terms of utility, he's absolutely broken. So it just when you combine all of the different elements, how much like the impact that he left on me the first time I played the game, how well written of a character he is, and how he like actually kind of merges into the main storyline, I think is really strong. The twist of having at the time it obviously came out before New Vegas or 4, so having a super mutant companion was pretty awesome. I think maybe you could have one in Fallout 2, but a lot of us haven't played that. We're not boomers. But anyway, so it has all those things going for him. Plus in combat, he's just like extremely powerful. He truly is just the total package, which I know I've said this for some of these other characters, but Fox is like the definition of the total package, and so absolutely love him, and I'll never forget kind of that first experience that I had with him, and then of course I have all these other memories with him and subsequent playthroughs where I was playing as a good character and was able to have him with me. So he's definitely my favorite companion in Fallout. I think he's the best, really, and when in a lot of metrics that I've kind of laid out here. And I certainly have a lot of fondness for him, and so there you have it. That's my ranking of all of the companions in the modern Fallout game. So yeah, got another couple hours of for your listening pleasure. Hope you enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed sort of talking through my opinions there, and it's something that I've always what really prompted me was, like I said, was that I saw that video where Preston Garvey was ranked last below like some of these joke characters that are supposed to be bad from some of the older Fallout games, and I was like, this is ridiculous. Preston Garvey is being libeled here, and I won't stand for it. But so realistically, I have pretty strong opinions about a lot of the companions, and they're fun to have. Like there's some of my favorite aspects of the Fallout games. I always will play with companions. I just think that they're fun to have. They lead to emergent storytelling, which I enjoy, particularly in Fallout New Vegas and 3, where they can die. I think that heightens the drama of the game significantly. I kind of wish that they could in Fallout 4, but then at the same time, they go down so fast in Fallout 4 that it's probably for the best that they don't, because they would all just be dead. But yeah, I just think that they're fun. And plus, in Fallout 4, they're so well written, and you kind of want to have them with you for story purposes. So I kind of get that decision. Yeah, in all of the Fallout games, I think that they enhance the experience significantly, and I really enjoy what they did with them, and I enjoy how they enhance the experience. And so I'm glad that I was able to talk about them on the show today. So that's it for this week's episode of Controlled Burns. Obviously, I have a lot of series that I need to get back to, I will say coming up very soon is going to be Brett and I making our NFL predictions, which I'm looking forward to, like we did last year. I got to get him to come with me to do that, but that's a story for another day. But for now, we'll leave it there. Remember that if you enjoy the show and you like what we do here, you can write in at ControlledBurnes with the es@gmail.com and subscribe, follow, like, review wherever you listen to your podcast. For now, and until next time, keep it warm.